Animals have been our companions, our symbols, and a part of the natural world that shapes the very fabric of life on Earth. From the rhythmic migrations of birds to the silent prowl of big cats, every species has its own role, its own story, and its own place in the delicate web of nature. They inspire wonder in children, fuel scientific discovery, and often become cultural icons. But behind the beauty and diversity lies a growing crisis. Species are disappearing at an alarming rate. Habitat loss, climate change, pollution, and human activity are pushing more animals toward extinction than ever before. Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Today we're taking a look at a more serious topic: the top 10 most recently extinct animals. These incredible creatures have disappeared from our planet in just the last few decades, many within our lifetimes. Let's dive in and learn about these lost species. Coming in at number 10 is the bramble K. melimes, a small rodent native to a tiny coral island in the Great Barrier Reef. This little mammal has the unfortunate distinction of being the first mammal declared extinct due to human-caused climate change. The melimes' entire world was a single island measuring just 12 acres, about the size of 9 football fields, and rising only 10 feet above sea level at its highest point. As global temperatures rose, increasing storm surges and rising sea levels gradually destroyed the melimes' habitat and food sources. Between 1998 and 2014, the island lost 97% of its vegetation due to saltwater inundation, leaving the rodents with nothing to eat and nowhere to shelter. Despite extensive searches with camera traps and live traps, the last confirmed sighting was in 2009, and it was officially declared extinct in 2016 by the Australian government. Queensland's Environment Minister called it a demonstration of what happens when we don't act on climate change. What makes this extinction particularly tragic is that it signals what may be coming for many low-lying island species as sea levels continue to rise. The melimes serves as a canary in the coal mine for climate change impacts on biodiversity. Number 9 on our list is the Spix's macaw in the wild. If this beautiful bluebird looks familiar, it's because it was the inspiration for the animated film Rio, which ironically premiered in 2011, over a decade after the bird disappeared from the wild. Native to the Caatinga woodlands of northeastern Brazil, these stunning blue macaws once flew freely along the São Francisco River. Growing up to 22 inches long with their distinctive cobalt blue plumage, they were truly a sight to behold. Their specialized diet included the nuts of the pinhão tree, making them particularly vulnerable to habitat changes. The wild population disappeared primarily due to habitat loss from the conversion of their native forests to farmland. Illegal trapping for the pet trade dealt the final blow. Collectors would pay up to $40,000 for a single bird. By the 1980s, only 3 known individuals remained in the wild. The last confirmed sighting of a wild Spix's macaw was in 2000, marking the end of naturally occurring populations. It's important to note that the species is classified as extinct in the wild, meaning no self-sustaining wild populations remain. The good news is that around 160 Spix's macaws still exist in captivity, and conservation efforts are underway to reintroduce them to protected areas in Brazil. In 2022, a small number were released back into the wild, offering a glimmer of hope for this species. Scientists are cautiously optimistic that with continued protection and habitat restoration, the Spix's macaw might someday fly free in substantial numbers again. At number 8 is the Pinta Island tortoise from the Galapagos Islands, whose story is personified by Lonesome George, the last known individual of his subspecies. These giant tortoises could weigh over 400 pounds and live for more than a century. They evolved with distinctive saddle-shaped shells that allowed them to reach higher vegetation, a remarkable adaptation that helped Charles Darwin develop his theory of evolution. Sailors in the 18th and 19th centuries would collect these tortoises as a food source on long voyages because the animals could survive for months in ships' holds without food or water. For decades, George lived at the Charles Darwin Research Station, where scientists desperately sought a compatible mate to save his lineage. Despite their efforts, which included a $10,000 reward for anyone who could find a female Pinta Island tortoise, no mates were ever found. Even attempts to mate him with closely related subspecies were unsuccessful. When George died in 2012 at an estimated age of 100, he took his entire subspecies with him. His last keeper, Fausto Llerena, who had cared for him for 40 years, described finding George's body as losing a family member. His preserved body is now displayed at the research station as a powerful symbol of extinction and conservation. Interestingly, recent genetic testing has found that some hybrid tortoises on other islands carry Pinta Island tortoise genes, suggesting that sailors may have moved tortoises between islands. This has given scientists hope that a partial recovery of the genetic lineage might be possible through selective breeding programs. Coming in at number 7 is the splendid poison frog, a brilliantly colored amphibian native to Panama. No larger than your thumbnail, these frogs were remarkable not just for their vibrant appearance, sporting electric blue limbs with gold and black patterns, but for their complex parental care behaviors. Male splendid poison frogs would guard the eggs laid on forest leaves, keeping them moist and protecting them from predators. When the eggs hatched, the devoted fathers would allow the tadpoles to wriggle onto their backs, then carry them to small water pools formed in the cups of bromeliad plants high in the trees. They would even return regularly to deposit unfertilized eggs as food for the developing tadpoles. Like many amphibians worldwide, the splendid poison frog fell victim to the deadly chytrid fungus pandemic. This microscopic fungus infects the skin of amphibians, disrupting their ability to regulate water and electrolytes, essentially giving them a heart attack. The disease has affected over 500 amphibian species worldwide and has driven at least 90 to extinction. Despite conservation efforts, including attempts to establish captive populations at the El Valle Amphibian Conservation Center in Panama, the last known wild population disappeared from its rainforest home around 2020. Scientists continue to search, but no individuals have been found since. This extinction highlights the devastating impact of emerging diseases on vulnerable species, particularly amphibians, which are experiencing one of the fastest extinction rates on the planet. Many scientists consider the global amphibian die-off from chytrid fungus to be the greatest disease-driven loss of biodiversity ever recorded. At number 6 is the Yangtze giant soft-shell turtle, one of the largest freshwater turtles in the world. In 2019, the last known female died during an artificial insemination attempt at Suzhou Zoo in China, leaving just one confirmed male still alive in captivity at the same facility. With a history stretching back over 100 million years, these remarkable reptiles survived the mass extinction that killed the dinosaurs only to face extinction in our time. They could grow to over 3 feet long, weigh more than 200 pounds, and potentially live beyond 100 years. Their flat, leathery shells and long, snorkel-like snouts allowed them to remain submerged underwater for up to 12 hours, breathing through specialized skin that could absorb oxygen. Their decline came from habitat destruction, particularly dam construction on the Yangtze River, pollution, and hunting for their shells and meat, which were used in traditional medicine. The species also holds cultural significance in Vietnam and China, where they are associated with creation myths and are believed to bring good fortune. Scientists have preserved genetic material from the female, holding on to a small hope that future technology might bring this species back from the brink. However, with no known reproductive females left, this ancient lineage is essentially extinct. There are rumors of a few individuals possibly remaining in the wild in Vietnam, but these remain unconfirmed despite extensive surveys with environmental DNA testing and drone technology. At number 5 is the Christmas Island pipistrelle, a tiny bat that weighed less than a penny. Native only to Christmas Island in the Indian Ocean, this microbat was an impressive insect hunter, capable of consuming its own body weight in insects each night, making it an important controller of mosquito populations. What makes the pipistrelle's story particularly heartbreaking is that scientists documented its decline in real time while pleading for intervention. Researchers saw numbers dropping by 80% between 1994 and 2006, and repeatedly warned Australian conservation authorities about the impending extinction. Despite these warnings, conservation action came too late. By January 2009, only 20 individuals remained. By August of that year, only a single individual could be detected by scientists' monitoring equipment. Dr. Lindy Lumsden, the lead researcher, described listening to the bat's echolocation calls grow fainter each night as like being with a patient who is dying and knowing that you can't do anything about it. In a last-ditch effort to save the species, a recovery team was dispatched to capture the remaining bat, but they were unsuccessful. The final echolocation call was recorded on August 26, 2009, marking the end of this unique species. What makes this extinction particularly tragic is how preventable it was. The main threats were introduced predators like cats and wolf snakes, problems that could have been addressed with earlier intervention. The Christmas Island pipistrelle became a symbol of extinction by bureaucracy, where delays in decision-making can have irreversible consequences for endangered species. Number 4 on our list is the western black rhinoceros, a subspecies of the black rhino that once roamed the savannas of central West Africa. These magnificent animals could weigh up to 3,000 pounds and had distinctive double horns, the front one often growing to over 4 feet long. Unlike their cousins, the white rhinos, western black rhinos were browsers rather than grazers, using their pointed upper lips to pluck leaves and twigs from trees and bushes. They were mostly solitary animals, except for mothers with calves, and could run at speeds up to 35 miles per hour despite their massive size. In the early 20th century, there were hundreds of thousands of black rhinos across Africa. Despite conservation efforts in the late 20th century that helped other rhino populations recover, the western black rhino continued to decline. The horns, made of keratin, the same material as human fingernails, are prized ingredients in traditional East Asian medicine despite having no proven medicinal value. After years without confirmed sightings, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, officially declared the western black rhino extinct in 2011. The last comprehensive survey in 2006 failed to find any evidence of surviving individuals in their traditional range across countries like Cameroon, Chad, Central African Republic, and Sudan. This loss is particularly devastating, as these rhinos were keystone species that shaped their ecosystems by creating pathways through dense vegetation and dispersing seeds through their dung. Their extinction represents not just the loss of a magnificent animal, but a fundamental change to the savanna ecosystems they helped maintain for millennia. Coming in at number 3 is the Catarina pupfish, a small freshwater fish that was found only in a single spring-fed pool in the Mexican state of Nuevo León. These resilient little fish evolved to survive in extremely hot waters with high mineral content, conditions that would kill most other fish species. Growing to just 3 inches long, these silver blue fish had adapted to survive in water temperatures up to 95 degrees Fahrenheit, 35 degrees Celsius, and in pools that could shrink dramatically during dry seasons. Females would lay their eggs in dense aquatic vegetation, with males establishing small territories they defended vigorously during breeding season. The pupfish's extinction came as a result of excessive groundwater extraction for agriculture, particularly large-scale farming operations that tapped into the spring's aquifer to irrigate crops. Scientists documented the spring's gradual decline as water levels dropped year after year until it completely dried up in 2014. Despite conservation efforts to relocate some fish to artificial habitats in local laboratories and aquariums, the last remaining population died out when a power outage shut down the life support systems of their tanks. The Catarina pupfish represents a growing trend of freshwater species extinctions worldwide, with freshwater ecosystems experiencing biodiversity loss at rates far exceeding those in terrestrial or marine environments. This extinction highlights the often invisible crisis of groundwater depletion, a silent environmental disaster happening beneath our feet as aquifers are pumped dry faster than they can naturally recharge. The pupfish's story serves as a warning about the fragility of desert water sources and the species that depend on them. At number 2 is the Jalpa false brook salamander, a Mexican amphibian that was only scientifically described in 1988, just decades before its extinction. This elusive salamander inhabited the cloud forests of Mexico's Sierra Madre Oriental mountains. Growing to about 5 inches long with a slender body and distinctive orange-brown coloration with black spots, these salamanders were rarely seen by humans due to their secretive nature. Unlike many amphibians, they didn't go through a tadpole stage, but instead developed fully inside their eggs, emerging as miniature versions of adults. The Jalpa salamander required very specific environmental conditions: cool temperatures, high humidity, and pristine streams with high oxygen content. This specialization made them particularly vulnerable to environmental changes. Like many amphibians worldwide, the Jalpa salamander fell victim to the deadly chytrid fungus, which has decimated amphibian populations globally. Habitat destruction from logging and climate change further pushed this species to the edge. As temperatures warmed and rainfall patterns changed, the cool, moist microclimate these salamanders depended on began to disappear. Despite intensive searches by herpetologists, no individuals have been found since 2018, leading scientists to conclude the species is extinct. This loss highlights the vulnerability of amphibians worldwide, with nearly 40% of all amphibian species currently threatened with extinction. Perhaps most tragic is that this species disappeared before scientists could fully understand its biology, behavior, and potential importance to human medicine. Many amphibians produce unique skin secretions with antimicrobial properties, some of which have led to important medical discoveries. Whatever secrets the Jalpa salamander might have held are now lost forever. And finally, at number 1 is the wild population of the northern white rhinoceros. Once abundant across Central and East Africa, in countries including Uganda, South Sudan, DRC, and Chad, this magnificent subspecies of white rhino has been decimated by decades of poaching and habitat loss. Northern white rhinos are massive animals, weighing up to 5,000 pounds and standing over 6 feet tall at the shoulder. Despite their name, they're not actually white, but grayish in color. The name comes from a mistranslation of the Dutch word wijd, meaning wide, which referred to their square upper lip adapted for grazing. The last wild northern white rhinos disappeared from their native range in 2008, and today only 2 females remain alive in captivity at the Oophaga Conservancy in Kenya. They are protected 24/7 by armed guards who have literally lived alongside them for years. The last male, named Sudan, died in 2018 at the age of 45, effectively ending any natural reproduction for the species. What's remarkable about this extinction is that it happened despite worldwide awareness and protection efforts. Even with international attention, hefty financial investments in conservation, and dedicated security teams, we couldn't save this species in the wild. At their lowest point in the 1970s, the population had fallen to just 20 to 30 individuals, proving that once numbers drop below a critical threshold, recovery becomes incredibly difficult. Scientists are now attempting to save the northern white rhino through cutting-edge reproductive technology, including in vitro fertilization using stored sperm from deceased males and eggs harvested from the remaining females. If successful, these embryos could be implanted into southern white rhino surrogates. In 2022, researchers announced they had created 12 viable embryos, offering a glimmer of hope. The northern white rhino's story represents both the devastating impact of human activities on wildlife and our desperate attempts to undo the damage before it's too late. It raises profound questions about the ethics and feasibility of using technology to resurrect species we've driven to extinction, and whether such efforts can ever truly replace what's been lost in the wild. These 10 species represent just a fraction of what we've lost in recent decades. Each extinction is not just the loss of a species, but the loss of millions of years of evolutionary history, and the unique role each animal played in its ecosystem. But there's also hope. Conservation efforts have brought species like the California condor, black-footed ferret, and Arabian oryx back from the brink of extinction. And new technologies offer the possibility of de-extinction for some recently lost species. The most important lesson from these extinctions is that early action matters. Many of these species could have been saved if conservation efforts had begun sooner and been better funded. If you'd like to help protect endangered species, consider supporting conservation organizations or learning about endangered species in your own area. Remember, extinction is forever, but extinction is also preventable. Thanks for watching. If you found this informative, please like, subscribe, and share this video to raise awareness about these lost species. Until next time.